strictly up to her. She just was strong. She's been out here on the road with us for the last 4 or 5 years now. She used to come when she could.
The moment Toby Keith stepped onto the stage at the People's Choice Country Awards, the atmosphere changed instantly. The applause wasn't just for a country music legend. It was for a man who had spent 2 years fighting the toughest battle of his life. Fans immediately noticed he looked thinner, and every step seemed to require extra effort. Yet he wore the same familiar smile that had carried him through decades of success. Few realized they were witnessing one of the final public chapters of his remarkable journey. But the song he chose made everyone wonder why this night felt so different. When the opening notes of "Don't Let the Old Man In" filled the Grand Ole Opry House, the room fell completely silent. Toby had written the song years earlier for Clint Eastwood's film The Mule, but on this night, it no longer sounded like a movie soundtrack. Every lyric felt deeply personal. As his voice trembled and his hands visibly shook, the words about appreciating each sunset and holding loved ones close seemed less like entertainment and more like a message. Looking back now, many fans believe he wasn't simply performing, he was quietly saying goodbye. But the audience didn't yet understand what was unfolding before their eyes. As the performance continued, emotions spread through the crowd. Cameras caught audience members wiping away tears, while fellow country stars watched in complete silence. His wife, Tricia, struggled to hold back her emotions as she looked toward the stage. Even those who had worked alongside Toby for decades appeared overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. Still, hope filled the room. Many believed this was the beginning of an inspiring comeback after months away from the spotlight. Sadly, history would reveal something entirely different. And just a few months later, that hopeful feeling would turn into heartbreak. On February 5, 2024, Toby Keith passed away peacefully, at the age of 62, surrounded by the people who meant the most to him. The announcement shocked millions around the world, but another mystery quickly emerged. Why had his family chosen to keep so many details private? Court records surrounding his estate were sealed, and very little information was shared publicly. Almost overnight, rumors began spreading online. Had Toby left behind one final request? Was there a private message that only his family knew? The truth, however, turned out to be far more meaningful than anyone expected. Long before the sold-out arenas and chart-topping hits, Toby Keith was simply a hard-working young man from Oklahoma chasing what seemed like an impossible dream. By day, he labored in the oil fields, learning discipline through exhausting work that tested both his strength and determination. By night, he loaded his guitar into small bars, hoping someone would listen. There were no guarantees, no wealthy connections, and no shortcuts waiting for him. Those difficult years shaped the fearless attitude that later defined his career. But one unexpected moment would change everything and launch him toward country music history. The oil fields gave Toby Keith far more than a paycheck. They gave him the grit that fans admired for decades. Long before fame arrived, he learned that nothing worthwhile comes easy. That same determination pushed him to keep writing songs even when people told him to give up and find a safer career. Looking back, those difficult years became the foundation of everything he achieved. And if you're enjoying this story, take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into legendary lives. But Toby's biggest breakthrough was closer than anyone expected. Everything changed in 1993, when "Should Have Been a Cowboy" exploded onto country radio. The song raced to #1 and became one of the most played country hits of the decade. Success followed at an incredible pace. Hit after hit, sold-out tours, millions of albums sold, and a fortune that few could have imagined during his oil field days. Yet friends often said, the fame never changed the man they knew. No matter how successful he became, he still valued honesty over popularity. But behind the spotlight, Toby was quietly protecting something even more important. Unlike many celebrities, Toby worked hard to keep his private life exactly that, private. He reportedly took legal steps to shield personal records, avoided unnecessary attention at home, and kept his family away from the constant glare of the media. Fans knew the performer on stage, but very few truly knew the man who returned to Oklahoma after the concerts ended. Those closest to him understood that family always came before fame. That quiet lifestyle would later explain many of the decisions made after his passing. But none of it would have been possible without one person who believed in him from the very beginning. Years before the awards, the fame, and the sold-out arenas, Toby met a young woman named Tricia Lucas. Their relationship didn't begin like a Hollywood romance, and neither of them could predict what the future would hold. Toby was still chasing an uncertain music career while working long hours in the oil industry. Many people urged him to be realistic and abandon the dream. Tricia didn't. She encouraged him to keep believing in himself when almost nobody else did. That quiet confidence would become one of the greatest gifts anyone ever gave him. And together, they started building a life that would last 4 decades. After marrying in 1984, Tricia chose a life far away from celebrity attention. While Toby became one of country music's biggest stars, she focused on raising their family and creating a stable home behind the scenes. She rarely gave interviews, avoided the spotlight, and let her husband enjoy the fame while she remained the steady force keeping everything together. Toby often described her as the rock of the family, the person who never stopped believing in him through every high and every low. Years later, after his passing, that quiet strength would finally be seen by the entire world. As Toby Keith's career reached new heights, he wasn't just collecting hit records. He was quietly building a business empire. Instead of relying entirely on major record labels, he created his own label and took control of his music, publishing, and touring. It was a decision that reflected the same independent mindset he'd developed in the oil fields years earlier. Every smart move gave him more freedom to do things his way. But when the concerts ended and the cameras disappeared, there was one place that brought him even more happiness than the recording studio. That special place was Dream Walkin' Farms in Oklahoma. To casual fans, it may have seemed like a hobby, but those closest to Toby knew it was much more than that. He personally named many of his horses, followed their progress closely, and loved spending time at the racetrack. Some longtime friends even believed horse racing meant as much to him as music itself. One horse in particular, Render Judgment, would later become part of an emotional chapter that nobody could have predicted. But before that dream could come true, Toby focused on something he believed mattered even more. Ask most people what Toby Keith's greatest achievement was, and they'd probably mention his #1 hits or sold-out tours. But Toby had a very different answer. He often pointed to the OK Kids Corral, a place created through the Toby Keith Foundation to help families whose children were battling cancer. It offered them a free place to stay during treatment, easing one burden during an incredibly difficult time. To Toby, changing lives meant far more than collecting awards. Ironically, years later, that mission would become deeply personal, in a way no one could have imagined. Toward the end of 2021, Toby received life-changing news. He had stomach cancer. Instead of announcing it immediately, he chose to tell only his closest family and trusted friends. For months, he quietly underwent chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery, while the public wondered why he had stepped away from performing. When he finally revealed his diagnosis in 2022, fans were stunned. The confident entertainer who had always seemed larger than life was now facing his toughest challenge. Yet even during the hardest moments, he refused to let fear define him. And one person never left his side through any of it. Throughout every hospital visit and every difficult treatment, Tricia remained his constant source of strength. Toby later shared how she immediately took charge, reassuring him that they would face the battle together. Friends said his faith also became an important source of comfort, helping him stay grounded when so much felt uncertain. Although the treatments left him exhausted, he kept searching for reasons to believe there were still meaningful moments ahead. Eventually, after months away from the spotlight, he made a decision that surprised the entire country music world. What happened next became one of the most unforgettable performances of his career. In September 2023, Toby Keith returned to the stage for the first People's Choice Country Awards, and the entire country music world held its breath. Although his body showed the effects of months of treatment, his determination never faded. Before performing, he accepted the first-ever Country Icon Award with his trademark humility and humor. Then he sang, "Don't Let the Old Man In," delivering every line with raw emotion. Looking back, many fans now believe this wasn't just a comeback, it was a heartfelt farewell hidden in plain sight. But Toby still had one more gift to give his audience. Just 2 months later, Toby surprised everyone again by announcing 3 sold-out shows in Las Vegas. Fans celebrated, convinced his health was improving and that a full return might be on the horizon. Night after night, he gave everything he had, smiling, joking with the crowd, and performing the songs that had defined his career. At the time, they felt like the beginning of a new chapter. Today, those concerts feel very different. They now seem like a man making sure he could say goodbye on his own terms, surrounded by the fans who had stood beside him for decades. Then came the heartbreaking morning of February 6, 2024. Toby Keith's family announced that he had passed away peacefully the night before, surrounded by loved ones. Tributes poured in from fellow artists, fans, and public figures across the country. Yet within hours, another emotional announcement followed. Toby had been chosen for induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame before his passing, but the news became public only after he was gone. It was a bittersweet moment, a career-defining honor he never had the chance to celebrate himself. But behind the scenes, another decision by his family quickly caught everyone's attention. Soon after his passing, reports confirmed that much of Toby's estate and probate records had been sealed from public view. Almost immediately, speculation spread across social media. Some believed there had to be a hidden message or an extraordinary final request locked inside those documents. Others wondered if there were family disagreements or unfinished plans. But those closest to Toby explained that privacy had always been part of who he was. He had spent years protecting his home and loved ones from unnecessary attention, so this decision was entirely consistent with the life he had always lived. Still, one detail made people look even closer. Months before his passing, after publicly revealing his diagnosis, Toby quietly finalized his will and carefully organized his affairs. It wasn't an act of giving up, it was an act of responsibility. Once everything was in place, he didn't retreat from life. Instead, he returned to the stage, recorded music, spent precious time with his family, and continued supporting the causes closest to his heart. That choice revealed something powerful about the man he was. He wanted the people he loved to be protected long after he was gone. But the clearest explanation of his true final wish wouldn't come from legal papers. It would come from the one person who knew him better than anyone else. 8 months after Toby Keith's passing, Tricia walked onto the stage at the Country Music Hall of Fame ceremony to accept his medallion. It was a moment she had quietly avoided for decades. During their entire 40-year marriage, she had rarely stepped into the spotlight. Yet now she stood before an audience, determined to honor the man she loved. Fighting back emotion, she admitted it was the first time she had been able to speak publicly about him. As the room listened in complete silence, every word carried the weight of a lifetime. Then she revealed what truly mattered most to Toby. Instead of talking about secret letters or hidden final instructions, Tricia spoke about Toby's character. She described his songwriting, his deep love for America, his generosity, and his commitment to helping children through the OK Kids Chorale. She made it clear that those efforts would continue, because that was exactly what Toby would have wanted. Then she shared a line that stayed with everyone in the audience. She said Toby never had to convince people he was authentic. He simply lived that way every single day. In that moment, fans realized his greatest legacy had never been fame alone. Not long afterward, another emotional chapter unfolded. One of Toby's beloved racehorses, Render Judgment, earned a place in the 2025 Kentucky Derby. It had been a dream Toby had chased for years, but he wasn't there to witness it himself. His family proudly shared the news, saying he would have the best seat in the house to watch. Although the horse didn't win the race, simply reaching the starting gate fulfilled a lifelong goal that meant the world to him. It was a powerful reminder that some dreams continue long after the dreamer is gone. Looking back now, it's easy to understand why so many people searched for one dramatic final wish hidden inside sealed records. But Toby Keith had already spent decades revealing exactly what mattered to him. His music encouraged people to live boldly. His charity gave hope to struggling families. His marriage showed unwavering loyalty, and his devotion to Oklahoma never faded. His final message wasn't locked away in a vault. It was written across the life he chose to live, and once fans saw the bigger picture, the mystery surrounding his last wish quietly disappeared. For over 40 years, Toby Keith lived by one simple rule: say what you mean and stand by the people you love. In the end, his widow didn't uncover a shocking secret or reveal an unexpected request. Instead, she reminded the world that his true wish had always been visible through his actions. Care for your family, stay true to your values, help those in need, and never lose sight of what really matters. That's the legacy he left behind, and it's why his voice continues to resonate long after his final performance. If one song, one memory, or one lesson from Toby Keith has stayed with you, share it in the comments below. His story may have reached its final chapter, but the impact he made will continue for generations to come.